What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome back into Talkin Grizz. We are moving down the mock draft. We're coming towards the end of our coverage, and representing the Warriors is Kendra Andrews, a Warriors reporter and writer for NBC Sports Bay Area. Thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. We were just talking about how it's all beginning now. So the trades are going to be up. Everyone's going to be moving and shaking. The rosters are going to get shaken up a bit. So let's talk about the Warriors. We heard earlier from someone else in the market about that number 7 pick. And now, so the Warriors also have the 14th pick. Do you think, and this is just like your mind, is there going to be some trades there, or you think they're going to pick 7 and 14?
I think if the right trade comes around, there will be a trade, but it has to be the right one. I feel like Bradley Beal's name has been in conversation for over a year now, and it's only now really becoming somewhat realistic. Woj the other day reported that Bradley Beal is considering asking out of Washington, but he's still not available. So all these hypothetical trades surrounding Bradley Beal can't actually happen because as of now, he's not actually available to be traded for. But if he is, that's the person that the Warriors would really push for to get. They would, be willing to trade their 2 first-round picks this year to get Bradley Beal. But other than that, right now, there aren't any real physical names to talk about. But again, if the right trade presents itself, they wouldn't hesitate to offer up these 2 picks to get them.
Yeah, this is kind of the time where it's hard to be a journalist because you don't know what's a rumor, what's not a rumor. So this is all, of course, hypothetical. Let's say, though, if the Warriors stick out the 7 and 14, let's talk about what names, what players could potentially make that good fit for the Warriors. What names do you have? I know you wrote an article earlier, you had a podcast earlier, so you're well-versed in who could fit into that slot.
Well, it's really interesting seeing the mock draft that you have so far because Davion Mitchel earlier on in the draft process was a name that was, in a lot of conversations for the Warriors to pick at 7. But as the pre-draft process has continued, he's now a guy that they're saying, well, if he's still there at 14, that could be more of a viable option for them instead of that 7th pick. They feel that 7 is a little high for him. Yeah. Also for that, for the 14th pick, I know someone already took Chris Duarte in your mock draft, but he's another guy. He's a lot of fans within the organization. Both Davion Mitchel and Chris Duarte are guys that the Warriors see could have some sort of impact on the team immediately. And it's also important to remember that with that, the Warriors are trying to win another title. So when they say, right now, they want to take advantage of Steph Curry still being an MVP caliber player, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson's coming back. They feel that they're close to being able to contend again. And with that, no rookie, no matter who they draft, is going to be the centerpiece of everything they do. They just need someone to come in to not be a liability, pretty much, just be able to contribute well off the bench. So they feel that Chris Duarte is a guy that could probably do that. Davion Mitchel, Corey Kispert, who is a fellow Zag of mine, Zaga would fit that bill. So those are 3 names at 14 that the Warriors are liking. As for 7, they like James Bouknight would be a good fit for them. There's also, talk of, okay, if someone like Jonathan Kuminga is available, he is not NBA ready. He's probably one of the most raw prospects in this draft. But if he's available at 7 with the ceiling that guy has, would that be something that they're interested in? He could also be a trade asset come trade deadline in the springtime. So there's a lot of different ways that the Warriors could go.
I think that's an interesting point too, because this is the Warriors and everyone's coming back from injury this year. They'll have their full roster. They could take a chance on someone who maybe isn't NBA ready because they're going to have that time to develop and they're not going to be kind of put into that starting lineup from the beginning. So that's an interesting thing to look at, especially with the Warriors roster. With a younger team, even a Grizzlies, for example, they have, we had some of the rookies last year starting in some of the games, and that happens because 1, we're young, 2, we weren't that deep in some of the positions. So it's interesting for the Warriors to look at someone like Kuminga and say, maybe we do take the risk.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. He is someone that they would need to give a lot of attention to, which with also needing to do that for James Wiseman, there's some push or pull. But if they draft all the names are all the names. if they draft Kuminga, Jonathan Kuminga, you probably could expect there to be a trade sometime. It's just kind of a matter of when. Is it going to be right after the draft? Is it going to be by the NBA deadline, the trade deadline, mid-season? When is it going to be? Because it's not likely that they're going to want to have two such big development projects, but he would be the biggest trade asset to draft, which if the Warriors feel that they're almost there and they're just looking for a veteran and they don't have a trade right now that they like, well, he could probably offer up a lot more in the future, in the next coming months than someone else could.
All right, Kendra, let me bring up two more names. Just, I want to hear what you think about them, if they fit with how the Warriors play. What do you think about them? One is Josh Giddey, the Australian player, and then two is Jalen Johnson, who I feel like has just disappeared off of mock drafts altogether.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson's name is one that has kind of sunk down or like gotten a little bit more quiet. I'll start with Jalen Johnson. His athleticism, I believe, is one of his, calling points.
Yeah.
And I was actually talking about this with my coworker the other day when it comes to prospects being like labeled just as crazy athletes. Like, well, how often does that crazy freak athleticism that's maybe shown in the combine actually translate to the NBA game? And it doesn't happen that often because it's more in showcase scenarios that you can really see someone like that. But Jalen Johnson does have a skill set that could translate to the NBA and actual in-game athleticism. So I think the Warriors, that is something that the Warriors wouldn't be opposed to adding. I just think that when it comes to their like list of attributes or characteristics that they're looking for, that's not at the top of their list. I think they're looking more for either secondary scoring coming off the bench or playmaking coming off the bench, because playmaking is something that the Warriors really lacked this season. They just didn't have that guy to facilitate a ton. And they see a guy like Jordan Poole more as a scorer than a facilitator. So who's someone that they could pair with Jordan Poole in the backcourt coming off the bench? But that brings us to Josh Giddey, who is a
one of the best passers.
One of the best passers in the draft. And he's another name that I think if he's there, especially at 14, the Warriors would be interested in. I was talking about this earlier this morning about the Warriors have a great problem almost where there's so many guys that they would be probably willing to take at 14 that clearly not all of them are going to be available, but there's so many that would work for them at 14 that they have a lot of flexibility, whether that's Josh Giddey, Chris Duarte, Davion Mitchell, Corey Kispert, Trey Murphy's another name that's come up. There's like 5 or 6 guys that could work for them at 14. So it's a good situation for them to be in if they choose to keep the 14th pick.
It makes a lot of work for you covering it, but it is a good problem to have. So Kendra, I'm going to put you on the clock now. I will put up the graphic for everyone at home so you can see what our mock draft looks like as of right now. So in this number 14 pick, you're going to represent the Warriors. Yes. Who are you drafting?
Oh man, a lot of these guys are a lot of the good guys off. So I guess I'll say some names that I just mentioned going through. I mean, I did just say Josh Giddey and he hasn't been taken yet. So I think looking at the names that have already been taken, a lot of the ones that the Warriors would like are taken on this mock draft. I think Josh Giddey would be an option for them. Also, Trey Murphy would be an option for them. I have not looked much into Trey Murphy yet because he's a name that I just started hearing pop up in conversation. But I have heard from other people that the Warriors are interested in him. They like his game. They like what he's been able to do. He had another competitive workout with the Warriors today when we're recording this, which is Monday. Mm-hmm. So he's also going to be a viable option for them. So I guess I'll go with oh man, I'm gonna fly blind and go with Trey Murphy just from what I've heard of the team enjoying him being in this competitive workout today that featured a lot of the guys that are already taken, but seems to kind of be a competition for who they're going to pick at 14.
Kendra, thank you so much for your time again today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Grizzlies fans, we're only a few days out, so make sure you stay tuned for the rest of our mock draft this week, and we'll see you on July 29th.